morning. Welcome to the Old School podcast about the American education system, its various quirks, traits, problems, as we endeavor to offer solutions. And so far as we know the solutions, good morning, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Hi, Mr. Miller. How are you doing, sir?
Hi.
I thought I'd keep it casual and refrain from the Herr Miller and call you Mr. Miller and just
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Ross.
That's how I talk. I keep it casual around here, you know?
There's another podcast called Nate Land with Nate Bargatze, a comedian, and they had a kind of long-standing joke about whether he should begin the podcast with hello or hello folks or something along those lines. And now I'm thinking about that as you sit there and you start the podcast with a rather chipper, almost whimsical hi.
Well, I'm not in a terrible mood today, and that's saying something, don't you think?
So, I'm glad you're in a good mood. I never wish you to be in a bad mood, unlike what you have done over the years. You've often wished that I was in a bad mood because you think I'm funnier.
Absolutely.
That way.
Absolutely. You're downright dull when you're happy.
Well, I can't say that I'm happy. I'm fine. I'm comfortable. Yeah, it's a nice Jewish expression. I'm comfortable. So,
Wow.
So, but currently I am not in my typical sanctum sanctorum. I'm actually out in the commons area of the household. Now, the Frau and the kid are not here, but so yes. So apparently, did you know? What are you laughing at?
Well, referring to your wife as the Frau. I don't know if you've done that yet on the show.
Das Kind und die Frau.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I don't know if you know this or not, but fence people who make fences.
Fences?
Yeah, a fencer, a fancier. I don't know what the noun is to describe someone who makes fences. Apparently, they're not old school. They don't like dig holes. Well, they have those machines with kind of the rotating, looks like an Archimedes screw that kind of just digs down into the soil.
It's called a hole digger.
Okay, I'll go with that. There used to be a thing where it was like a gigantic salad spoon. You just ram it into the ground open, and then you close it and dig dirt out and bring it up. But apparently they don't do that anymore. So I thought initially when they said that they're going to start building this fence today, I was like, well, I got the podcast. I said, well, I mean, it's like, what are they going to hear? Like the occasional thump of a salad spoon going into the ground to dig out soil. And I thought, okay. And then they came in and they have equipment and it's very loud. And I thought, okay, well, this isn't going to work. And I'm not begrudging them because certainly that's got to be an easier way to make a fence and a quicker way, by the way, than digging a hole, which I've done. I've done post hole digging.
Sure,
and so I'm not besmirching or otherwise disparaging how technology and mechanization has entered into the mix, but I just wasn't expecting it.
Is this a fence that borders on your backyard? Is that technically your fence?
Well, it's actually the fence between myself and my neighbors. So the two of us, we are going in on, we're going halvesies, as they used to say, on paying for this fence. So
okay, well, so this is not like unexpected, this noise pollution that you're suffering from right now.
Is it not expected?
Well, I mean, you were ready for it, but then now you had to retreat, essentially.
I did have to retreat, and so now I'm in the nurturing environs of my dining room, which I don't know what the acoustics sound like. Do I sound good?
It's great. You dulcet tones here, Mel.
All right, very good. Nice. All right. Okay. So anyway, so that's what's going on here. And of course, we have football later today. God, you got to help me.
What?
Tonight. So here's the thing. So my wife is younger than I am. And that's not a problem. I don't think anyone would see it as a problem necessarily. But my wife is younger than I am. And my friends are, on the whole, younger than I am. So we have these. Well, you're an exception, but so we have a group of friends who I love to death. They're fantastic people. They are just top notch people, but they are around Jen's age, my wife's age, they're a little bit younger, and so therefore their cultural highlights as they grew up are considerably different than mine. And one of those highlights, as we come upon Halloween, is the movie Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
Okay, so there was, at some point it was determined that I had never seen it. Not only had I not seen it, I really was not interested in seeing it. But the three of them, our friends and my wife, and the kids, by the way, because it's like a kid's favorite at Halloween. I'd never heard of this movie before. My friends brought it up, and they're saying, "Well, you got to see it." And I was like, "Okay, fine." So I thought, okay, I'll take one for the team. We'll have a gathering. We'll watch Hocus Pocus. The kids will love it. The three other adults will get to relive their childhood, and we'll end the evening, and all is well.
Perfect.
Except those folks who made Hocus Pocus decided 30 years after the fact that what we really needed was Hocus Pocus 2. And so now we got the same group of friends coming over because they insist that we all have to see it. And here's something else. I never insist that people have to see the movies that I like. I don't sit there and make grand demands upon my friends and upon my wife. Hey, you must watch John Wayne. Sure, she would be a better person for having done so, but I don't make those kind of demands on her. But here I go. I got a couple of friends coming over tonight. These lovely, dear, wonderful people and their kids, and we're coming over, and they're coming over, and we're going to watch Hocus Pocus 2. And you just die 1,000 deaths. I mean, I'm just dreading it. It's certainly hanging out with people is fine, but God bless it. Hocus Pocus 2.
So you're missing a football game. Is that really what you're getting at here?
I'm sure I'm missing something of greater import than Hocus Pocus 2. 3. Okay, I don't know all the actresses that are the three witches, but I bet you they haven't done much in the last 30 years. And now all of a sudden they've come together again for Hocus Pocus 2. And so it's like Bette Midler and it's two other people. I don't know the other two. I don't know who the other two people are. And it's just, I don't know. It's not good.
Sorry about that.
So when my friends ask me, hey, you think I should get married? This is what it's like sometimes. This is what you have to do. Everyone pays in the end. And here I am paying from Hocus Pocus 2. And let there be no mistake to our listening audience who feels that I am some sort of completed, wonderful work of art who is just wonderful all around. And it's only my wife who brings tension to the relationship. I'm a jerk. Yeah, I get that.
I've known that from the start.
Yeah. Listen, marrying to me is no picnic.
No.
And sometimes if Hocus Pocus 2 is what helps you get through it, then okay. But Hocus Pocus 2, Jesus. All right. Well, we're gonna watch it, and I'm gonna do my best to not be too terribly snarky or curmudgeon. But
yeah, just keep your thoughts to yourself. I think that would be the best approach.
I wonder, because I hear that there are people that know how to sleep with their eyes open. Do you know about that? Is that true?
Well, no, but a lot of people, no one will notice if you're texting because nobody actually watches something anymore. They're looking at their phone. So just watch the game on your phone. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, man, it's not a bad idea. So
that's what I do here. I solve problems.
Education solves problems, and sometimes the solution to their problems is that they fire people. I don't know.
That was an abrupt transition here, Miller. Who's getting fired? Are you saying that you've been fired finally?
No.
Oh, well.
It's only a matter of time, perhaps, if I stick around too much longer.
I think you should go out in a blaze of glory. That's the romantic in me. They say, get the hell out of here, Miller. And you take your box and leave.
My potted plant sticking out.
Oh boy, that would be what a day,
I've always wanted people to spread rumors like after I leave. Yeah, the cops let him out of his house. He was in a wife beater, and he was screaming at the officers, "Do you know who I am?" I just want the rumors to spread about this kind of fall from grace of this highly respected, well, probably not highly respected, but certainly respected teacher of some 20 some odd years upon his retirement. I don't know.
Well, you've managed to keep your prehistory before teaching under wraps, really, and so
Well, you know why? Because that's before social media, so it's a lot
yeah.
easier to keep that under wraps. But
Yeah, well, here's hoping that there's not some video footage from 12 millimeter, or whatever the hell they had back then.
This I was in the military. I was serving our country, schmuck. So it's not that I was doing something nefarious. It's not like I was up to no good.
Well, that's not what I heard. People are saying that there's
people
more
are
to
saying what people would that be exactly?
Well, so
Anyway.
What about the firing? Go back to the firing. You really piqued my interest.
So there's an organic chemistry professor. We're starting to leave the lofty realms of public education for just a bit. But there's this organic chemistry professor at NYU, and apparently a group of his students petitioned the board of trustees at NYU regarding the low grades, the fact that he was uncommunicative, the fact that he was not very helpful, that he didn't do much to try to help them out of their various difficulties with the course. Apparently the kids are making like 30s or 20s, and there's a great disturbance in the force, if you will, among some of these kids. So about 80 of them, out of a total number of about 350, 360 or something like that, about 80 of them signed a petition that basically suggested that somehow their grades should be changed, or their grades should be altered, or the situation needs to be changed because this guy's not helping us. When he speaks to us, it's with kind of a demanding tone, and a lot of this language that we have come to associate with a certain group of folks in the university level that are perhaps better known for, the juxtaposition of them with the idea that they're being persecuted or whatever the case may be, just because they don't meet the standards. And they're calling into question the standards. They're calling into question the class. They're calling into question the teacher's entire ability as a professor. Now, this is a professor who is credited with kind of changing how organic chemistry is taught. Apparently, he's a bit of a rock star in the field.
So this is not some assistant professor right out of with a newly minted doctorate. This is an experienced, a dinosaur of sorts, and somebody who's prominent, and I'm looking at the story now, 84 years old.
84 years old. The guy's name is Dr. Maitland Jones Jr. And now the catch here is that what he was doing for NYU was like a yearly contract sort of thing. So it's kind of a gun for hire. And so he's credited with changing the notion and the nature of organic chemistry, particularly for aspiring physicians. Moving away from rote memorization to more of a problem-solving type of approach to the course. And this is the guy who just got fired. Now, he could be fired because he was only his tenure with NYU was only a yearly basis.
So it was probably at will, and they could not renew for all kinds of reasons, just not a bad reason. So is there a legal question to this? Is this going to court, or what's the next step?
I don't think it's going to court because Dr. Jones says that he does not want the job back. He had planned on retiring soon anyway, and so he figured, well, let's go ahead and call it a day. This is a guy who's had a very long career, primarily at Princeton, but there's no legal action. Now, the students who signed the petition said that they were surprised that the professor was fired because they didn't ask for that.
So did they now create another petition to bring him back?
I don't think the students care enough about it, but
talk about the students, because this is a course that's really a gateway to med school, and if you don't pass it, you're out. And it does have some implications.
It has huge implications. There were several students who were quoted in the New York Times article that I read, former students of his, that talked about the fact that this class was kind of a weeding out class, a class where people are, they either make it through or they don't, and their dreams and aspirations of being a physician are over. And so apparently these 82 kiddos are folks who feel that potentially because of this course, their dreams of being a doctor are no longer viable. Now, you could say anyone making a 30 in organic chemistry, maybe you don't want them as a doctor. And actually, that's what one of the chemistry professors within the department said, is there has to be a certain level of standards that are maintained, because what we're sending these kids off to is to training that to serve a very high purpose, that of a physician. And, you don't want a D student doing your surgery for you, and so there's a great sense of responsibility, I would imagine, on the part of the teachers, that who they pass on are people who are worthy, or at least at that stage are worthy of being and pursuing the field of medicine. So from the kids' point of view, they feel that the course is unnecessarily hard, that there's no particular reason why organic chemistry should be the course that should be the deal breaker. And it seems like as part of their petition, they feel that there is something kind of ethically wrong with this gauntlet that they have to run, and in particular with regards to this particular course, that it should be such a make or break type of thing.
Well, it's looking at the context, a little bit. The technology today, coming out of COVID, that a lot of professors have gone to making online resources common. I'm reading that the professor was a little bit backwards as far as getting videos of coursework and so forth. I'm just trying to paint the whole picture. Picturing parents. Typically, parents are paying $70,000 or more for that type of an education. I can imagine parents having their child fail a course and suddenly they're off track for the future, and they're putting up all this money. They would be upset. Right now I'm not taking any side on this, but that kind of plays into it also.
It does, but that would also assume that nothing else was available to assist these kiddos outside of the actual physical classroom.
One of the things like their textbook,
for example.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just take the gloves off. We think this is stupid. Is that where you're getting at?
Well, I think if, and it's hard to know because you don't necessarily have the complete story.
Right.
One of the people that was quoted in the article was an assistant to Dr. Jones, mm-hmm. who said that the kids who are failing almost universally have not accessed any of the additional resources that are available online for them to be able to use in order to prepare themselves and to do well in the tests. And the question is that at what point do the students have to pay for the consequences of either not being able to pass a class or not being willing to do the work necessary to pass the class?
Well, the Dr. Jones was saying some troubling things about the students and their drop in test scores.
Yes.
He said something about them just simply misreading questions, on exams, not preparing. So there's definitely an argument on his side that he's been consistent. I mean, you would imagine a professor of that stature is not inventing new curriculum every year. So
Right.
Maybe the standards are the same today, or would have been if he'd been teaching right now, as they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. Is that, do you think that's the case?
I think while he is credited with doing a massive rethink on the curriculum and how it is to be presented, I doubt he has changed very much outside of the particular special demands that COVID kind of made on teachers. I doubt he has changed very much since that kind of breakthrough idea and the idea that kind of established his reputation. No, I don't imagine he has changed. Now the question is that necessary for the kid to get a good education out of it? It is difficult sometimes to try to hold the line. And while I don't know this particular professor's story, I don't know the complete picture. I don't know that anybody does really. But I can feel what he's going through, because I think a lot of teachers, particularly in the high school where parents are more present, of course, you confront these type of situations all the time.
Oh my goodness. You think back to in my case, even teaching an elective or something that's not a core subject, the pressure was not parents, for me, but we definitely would get a coach walking into the room, noticing that some of their players are struggling, but they always did it very respectfully, and they didn't ask to change a grade. But they just wanted a little bit more support, or they wanted to be informed. That was the main thing. But I bet that in your case, there were parents and maybe even administrators because you have a core class.
I have a core class. It feeds into not only the AP exam for U.S. history, it also feeds into an end of course test for U.S. history in general for the state of Texas, to be able to, for a student to be able to get a graduation, get a diploma, they have to be able to complete these EOC end of course exams. So yes, now of course, from my point of view, the issue has never been about a kid being able to pass the EOC, the end of course.
It's too easy. Everybody can pass that. they show a map of Michigan with an arrow, and
where's Michigan?
Yeah. So I apologize. That's beneath me.
No, actually, it's not. So, but
quiet.
But no, I think it is. Oh man, it is tough. Organic chemistry, I would think that's the kind of course that would prevent your average parent from bowing up and say, listen, I know how this thing works. This kid should be making better grades, because who in the heck has an understanding of organic chemistry except for maybe, specialists in the field? History, everyone feels free to comment on history. So I get all sorts, people who watch the History Channel, people, whatever.
They're all experts.
They're all experts, so, but it has become increasingly difficult. Now, I don't get coaches. I used to when I was starting out. I got coaches who could be not quite delicate in trying to find out what's happening with a kid or what's happening with me in the course, But I will say coaches don't do that anymore. At least they don't do it with me. And so, but it's kind of a no-go. You don't do that anymore, and coaches don't do it. So, but you hear it from the kiddos, you hear it from parents about this is too hard. They freak out about a bad grade here or a bad grade there, and I certainly believe that a bad grade is something to be concerned about, especially if it is accurately depicting your lack of knowledge. Okay, maybe you want to do something different, but as far as whether that standard should exist, this is very problematic. And can you imagine any other professor who is on a year-to-year contract? The intimation is, make sure your kids pass or you'll be the next one fired. And then you have to ask the question, what kind of educated individual are you producing as a university?
Yeah, that does get a little bit scary. In the K-12 world, it's that grade book portal that's live and people can trace grades. So often these become really just misunderstandings because people are trying to interpret a provisional grade. in the middle of a term when things are coming due and students are absent, it's really not so clear as the end of the grade at the end of a course where you can actually do the statistics there. But a university department, I would argue that grades become inflated dramatically in master's programs, and particularly in doctoral programs, where it's really just the expectation that you get an A or an A minus or a B, but
Right.
but the grades are high there. I would say that probably undergraduate it would be the most challenging, and I hear it from my own students that it's real, but the hope is that students would rise up to the professor's expectations, and we picture paper chase and Dr. Professor Kingsfield and the fact that he had high standards and people would leave his class racing to the bathroom to throw up or something because they were called on by him. But we would hope that the students would change their preparation if their grade is low. I mean, it seems like in a way playing chicken. Who's going to blink first? And in this case, the administration blinked and sided with the students. Legally, they're on firm ground. But what would happen if this had been a tenured professor?
Oh, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
I think if it was a tenured professor, then you can do damn near anything as a tenured professor, and you're not getting fired. Both good and bad things, And so I don't think we're having this conversation if he was tenured.
Okay. But I mean, so many courses are taught by adjuncts. In this case, this gentleman had a contract for a year. I wonder if he taught multiple courses, but either way, there's something immediately troubling about it, and it makes us, it brings to light the problem of a teacher, because if there aren't enough pressures, now suddenly you need to find a way, through some type of intellectual contortion to create an assessment system where your demands are high. People, master the content as much as they need to, say, to get into medical school, but then you have a nice passing rate of about 75% or something like that.
Right.
And I'm probably closer to 90, actually.
Well, I think the thing that makes this a more complicated conversation, if we are to assume, based upon the quotes that are in the New York Times article from former students, that Dr. Jones is otherwise a highly competent, intelligent, one student said, inspiring teacher.
Right.
That does not preclude incompetent teachers. And so, I think I may have told this story once before. I had an economics teacher in college. He was dreadful. I mean, almost incomprehensible. The way he spoke, the way his thought patterns were organized, his ability to be able to explain things was woefully inadequate for the task. And I remember when at the end of the course, the last day of the course, the grad assistants came in, passing out evaluations on the teacher.
Right.
And when they came up to me, I said, I'm not filling that out. And the graduate student, poor lady, the graduate student said, well, why? I said, well, assuming he didn't get this bad overnight, he's had plenty of evaluations that say that this guy's not a good teacher. And yet I still spent a semester with this guy. So clearly anything I write down doesn't matter. So I'm not filling it out. And so that's always the tricky part. I can say, and you can say, that this is troubling, that this sets a horrific precedent, and it does. But that does not suggest that there are not incompetent teachers out there, incompetent professors out there, someone with tenure, and you can't do anything about them. And I imagine that economics professor I had in college, he had tenure. The guy was old as Methuselah. And so, I can imagine he's been doing it for a while. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing about making this kind of argument is that someone can always come up with an individual who is truly dreadful as a professor and should not be in the classroom. But I think that does not matter as much as it matters what kind of precedent this sets, what kind of expectation does this give students that they have the power to do. And I don't know. I think it's like the old adage with parenting. You get the students you deserve.
That's pretty good. As a professor, and I've taught enough courses, I've gone through this a lot where there are the students give you their reviews that they fill out, like you mentioned, and it's a little bit awkward because you're teaching them, you're in the front of the classroom, and then somebody comes in with an envelope and you go out, or you're done. Usually that's it. You leave for the night, and then
Yes.
they fill it out. But it's this awkward exchange because the students are they're making some sort of judgment, and the weight is, to my understanding, pretty high, because it's not like what you have in high school where you're observed, say, by a vice principal. You have this whole protocol of evaluation, and they come in, they do walkthroughs, and there are a lot of eyes on you. But professors are kind of, on a bit of an island, so the only people who have real insight would be those students, and then chatter. And there's always chatter that maybe gets to the department head. But I think you're right. Um, there are a lot of there's a range of poor to great for any profession, but I think particularly for professors. So, but what do? Do you trust the opinion of students in that case? Should there be that much weight on those evaluations that you refuse to fill out?
Well, I think the professors who have a pretty negative reputation, I think everybody knows it. I think the department chair knows it. I think other teachers know it. I think the administration knows it. And it's just a question of what they can do about it. And so, but that does not seem to be the case with this particular guy. Yes, the former department chair of the chemistry department in NYU did mention, as you said, that Dr. Jones had not changed his methodology of recent times to fit the new student. But then Dr. Jones would say that the new student is not as competent as the old student was. And so there is that. I think for the most part, though, his other colleagues are very much rising to his defense. He's got a lot of former students rising to his defense. And so I think you can look at this as objectively as you can and sit there and say, well, at the very least, this petition is questionable. But but the professors for whom they have set the standard in bad teaching, I think everybody knows that. I think that's an easy decision to make. And I think it's easy to delineate those folks from professors who are fighting the good fight.
Well, we might address the college students themselves. I mean, they've kind of gotten off the hook in our conversation a little bit.
Indeed.
But we've been discussing for a long time that lack of engagement of students, and particularly lack of grit and lack of reading, lack of preparation.
Right.
That you can get through high school, even advanced placement courses, by watching videos and not reading. And suddenly chemistry, organic chemistry, you're not going to watch a bunch of YouTube videos and figure that out. You have to crack the book and read it again, and so forth. So does this, whatever the term is, empower, but in a bad way, students to not prepare, but then they complain about it?
I think it certainly does empower, and I would imagine that the next petition that's signed is going to include, we also want the guy fired because it worked the last time, and so the first petition didn't even ask for that.
Yeah. So it enables them. That's what I was hunting for. And then they're going to say, well, fire the dean for firing that teacher, and fire everybody. Get everybody involved, but any professor would be vulnerable. We tend to make a slippery slope argument here, but it does open up a bit of a Pandora's box.
It does. And like you said, though, the students have not really been, the article, the New York Times article does mention, and does highlight the various ways in which the students might not have done what they should have done in order to pass the class. And and you mentioned briefly the idea of the kind of the lack of intellectual stamina and grit to be able to push through and to learn a subject. We don't do them any favors at the high school level, because at the high school level, it's all about tips and strategies and shortcuts and angles. And here's how you do this. And here's 5 ways to get a 5. And, all these little catchy slogans and ideas that are meant to kind of encapsulate, boil down complicated processes into number crunching. And when they get into as you said, when they get into a course in a college, that you really can't do that. It's a whole new ball game. And if you can't adjust, you're out. And I imagine those 82 kids that signed that petition are 82 folks that haven't been able to figure it out yet. All right. So I don't know what percentage 82 of 360 is, or 350 or whatever the number is.
You'll never know, Mr.
I'll never know. So, but I understand that it is not an insignificant number, but surely that would suggest there's plenty of other people who are getting it done and getting it done right. Enough so that at the very least, it should call into question the petition and just quote unquote how bad Dr. Jones is.
That's right, because we're making a ton of inferences here, and my hypothesis would be that the students who aren't doing well in that class are not reading and they're not studying, and those are kind of latent variables that we would need to know,
right,
in this case. If a student is taking out their highlighter, if they actually have a book and doing all of that and preparing, and they would probably say that they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, because when you take an exam at a university, is it based upon sitting in the lecture and hearing what the professor says, or is it based upon your own preparation outside? And I would guess that it's both, but probably more about the outside preparation. You can pass classes by reading notes and reading the textbook.
Yes, you can. But it has a lot to do with the student. And I tell my students this. Right. We only see each other a couple times a week. Your success in this class is going to be dependent upon what you're doing outside the class. I guess just for me, this particular situation, it kind of strikes home. One, because I have often been on the business end of conversations about he's too hard, his class is too hard. He's grading too hard. I have had colleagues who have also kind of suffered the indignity of being too hard on their students. Other teachers kind of, especially the younger teachers, kind of roll their eyes at the old dinosaurs who demand that certain things be done in their classroom. Those teachers get it from all sides. And there is no side of the public education sector where they can go to for support and co-commiseration. They're, like you said, they're on an island. And so I kind of feel for this particular professor. Clearly he doesn't need the gig. He's made his lot and he's going to retire, but I do worry about what this means. And of course, anything that happens at the university level will eventually matriculate down to the high school and the public school sector. So I don't think this is the end of the story, and I don't think it'll stay within universities.
Right. It sort of touches a nerve. I do think that there are real assessments beyond the college weed out courses. For example, if you're studying law, the bar exam is nothing that no one can complain about that. And they expect, and I think the same thing to become a medical doctor. Those exams are for real. So is the weed out appropriate or not? is it, overall helping? It's a prominent university. I mean, the fact that you're accepted into that university already, these are brilliant students for the most part, you would think.
You would think, yes.
Um,
I think it depends also about what kind of field of endeavor, not to diminish one and elevate another. But if I see a history student, a history teacher, prospective student, in a college somewhere, prospective history teacher student saying, "Hey, C's get degrees," I say, "Okay," because the potential consequences are not that troubling. If I see a doctoral student who wants to be an open heart surgeon walking around saying C's get degrees, that's considerably more troublesome. And so I don't know. I think context has a lot to play here. And I think it's okay to have high demands, and a C ain't cutting it, so who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
what do we know? It's a complicated, and I don't even know how to use a post hole digger. We're talking about this kind of thing, but
That's because you had that gilded upbringing in Eugene.
oh, I've dug plenty of holes, and we actually had soil in Oregon. We didn't have clay like you have in your backyard.
So on our podcast, recorded and in perpetuity,
Yeah.
we have the recorded sentence. I've dug plenty of holes in my life.
Oh, I do it every day. Can't get out of them.
Sometimes I dig them just to fill them back up again. It's exercise, So, well, yet another podcast in the bank. Something to look forward to, something to look at, and to look and see how this thing progresses over time. Because I think, like we've talked about, there's going to be consequences and repercussions to this particular event. And I think it's something to kind of keep an eye out on it and see how it unfolds.
Yeah, it's not the first time this has come up.
No,
universities. So it'll last for a news cycle, but this seems to have so many points of view converging that it's probably worth revisiting.
Indeed. Well, you watching football today?
Not really. I'm going to a marching band performance live this evening, and so I may watch a little bit in the afternoon. I don't know, but probably not. I'm going to reserve some time to watch the NFL tomorrow. That would be my answer.
Okay. Well, I've been to plenty of marching band competitions, so I know you're going to have fun. I am planning my Italy trip, so I still got to do some stuff on that. Although it's not until next summer. You can never start too early to plan your next trip to Italy. So
I love Italy. My 2 hours there were just great.
It is shameful that is the whole of your experience with Italy. We really need to fix that at some point. So
I think so. I shall return.
All right, very good. Well, with that, we shall say adieu, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Auf Wiedersehen, Herr Miller.